ago, I got a phone call from one of our regular callers with regards to his observation on how retail was going for this Christmas season in his area. And he was concerned that it wasn't looking so good. Now there are reports apparently, hey, some shopping happening apparently over the weekend. So in San Fernando. Now, it begs the question, because I have heard some things in different areas from different parts of the country with regards to, well, things kind of slow this year here, things kind of slow this year there, etc., etc. Perhaps with regards to a lot of people, shopping in advance is not something that they were, you know, easily able to afford. But also depending now, we do have to wonder if there is, at least with regards to Christmas shopping, because I do believe this is a story that's been happening for quite some time. But again, you have to ask, is it economics or is it lifestyle and scheduling in 2025? Because the scheduling that we do now is somewhat different to what we used to do back in the old time days, I would argue. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see how it goes with regards to our economy. Can we get enough churn of money circulating so that things don't start to stall? That's ultimately one of the important things, particularly depending on your debt to GDP ratio. You want to have, obviously, in general, you want to have a certain amount of economic growth just because of inflation. But with regards to our debt to GDP ratio, I can't imagine that it's getting any better anytime soon, given the fact that I suspect the money was found by the current regime with regards to loan finances for certain things that were not budgeted for. And since we're already on a deficit, somehow I doubt that we have $3.8 billion just lying around to pay off the back pay. Speaking about back pay, where is it? The Minister of Finance, my boy, you know, sometimes you just have to, I don't know, maybe my expectations are too high. Still think the media is unbiased. Salaries and back pay on time as promised and not a media house beep. What is that supposed to mean? So, because apparently the media house had reported on this social media comment or what have you, his WhatsApp status, right? They were asking if he was talking about everything in place to pay the $3.8 billion in back pay. Now, he did not respond. Maybe he didn't respond because his phone blew up. That can happen. That could very well happen. As Minister of Finance, given current timing overall, I could see that being very likely. However, apparently the message was delivered and read, right? So he's saying, why is the media not reporting that government has paid the promised partial back pay on time? And I think this is the, believe it or not, I view the minister's position as one that is not too dissimilar to the opposition. It's almost like if I wonder why the media is not jumping up for joy over a situation that has dramatically played out in the press and doesn't necessarily seem as though, well, no, eventually it was, I believe, carried out. But I think part of it is, why does the minister expect the rest of the country to look at this situation and see it as a positive? You made a promise to the PSA, you didn't make a promise to the nation. How does that benefit the nation to increase the deficit by $3.8 billion? The actual deficit presented to us didn't even reach $3.8 billion. So I'm kind of confused as to why the minister thinks he deserves praise over promises made, politics kept for a subset of the country that potentially can lead to, you could say, major or minor negative economic consequences for the overall whole, why is this the thing that you say, oh, you know, not a peep, we managed to do a thing that we promised? Yeah. I said I understood why you need to follow up on that promise, but let's make this clear. That's like saying, I'm a parent and I pay child support. Where's my pay raise? I pay court-mandated child support. Yeah, that's the thing you're supposed to be doing. If you don't want to pay child support, don't have a child. Now, if you're saying, I'm a parent and I'm engaged with my child, I sacrifice a lot of time for my child, you know, I engage in a lot of activities with my child, that's different. But if you're saying, I did a thing that is, generally speaking, what I'm supposed to do, that's like saying, I drop my child to school every day. Where's my praise? Yeah, you're supposed to be doing that. If you can't do it, then it's either a situation that you're in an unfortunate circumstance or you're a dirtbag. But there's no, that's not the baseline of, well, you know, child, find yourself at school. That's technically not the baseline. I know it is for some people, but that's technically not the baseline. We don't praise people for dropping their kids to school. You don't get a Nobel Peace Prize for that. Media don't be like, oh my gosh, look how great these parents are. They're dropping their kids to school. Oh, so great. You promised a thing, and I said, I understand why you had to do it. Didn't mean I agreed with it. In fact, I didn't necessarily agree with it. And why? Why can I say that? Why can I say that I think that the 10% plus the back pay in all cash was probably not a good idea? Well, just look at the fact that they have an inability to facilitate any other union in such a manner. Oh, when the time was right, the PNM was wicked for only offering 5%, for only offering 4%. How you could be so wicked? But notice, the wickedness is not being rectified. We're not even getting a proper veneer of consideration or compassion over people who have already negotiated for 4 and 5%. Some saying they felt compelled to do so based on threats. We're not hearing no compassion with regards to that. All of the compassion was before. But now that they have conveniently accepted the wicked PNM's offer of 4 and 5%, look how fast the government is running to say, well, you know, you negotiated, and then, you know, we can't do anything. You already agreed. You signed on the dotted line. For a situation that had union leaders basically say that this controversy with regards to who is not getting what and who is getting what. And yes, a lot of people say, but they signed already, they signed. Yes, but unfortunately, the narrative that the opposition UNC constructed is not consistent with the narrative that the government UNC is constructing. Because I am very certain they were more than happy to let people believe that, hey, once we get elected, we will right all the wrongs. Now, all of a sudden, it's not that we were righting all the wrongs. It's just that we're writing what we want to write, what our political promises were made in order for politics to be kept. And that's why you don't deserve praise over this minister. You went and extended the government's financial position, the nation's financial position, for your political promise, which one would question, did you even need it to get elected? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. All of a sudden, now I'll say this, in 5 years or 10 years, we may or may not have to look at WASA and the PSA as you did with regards to CPEP and the PNM. Because promises were made so politics could be kept. And you know, the interesting thing is, if you didn't, you know, run up like an entitled child saying, where's my praise? Where's my praise? Love me. I probably wouldn't have even brought up this topic this morning. But this seems utterly and completely tone deaf to me. You're the same guy that said, well, I'm not budgeting anything because it could be 0%. Yeah, that was mistake number one. And that set up a situation when the PSA now felt in battle to get what they felt was owed to them. Meanwhile, the implication of how you handle the matter, because by law, the CPO obeys you on the matter, not even the Prime, it doesn't actually say the Prime Minister, it says the Minister of Finance, if my memory serves correct, in the law. How you handle the matter made it seem as though the government was trying to find any wiggle room at all to not follow through with the promises made. But they realized that they didn't have a choice because they had their politics to be kept. So why do you deserve praise over this? Just at the end of the day, you ended up giving in with regards to the 10% and the back pay. And I say giving in with regards to the 10% based on the fact that you said it could potentially be 0. We know that that was not feasible. We know that that was not likely to be the case. But you said it, you opened that door because you didn't think before you spoke. And now you want to put this WhatsApp message here, oh, the media is biased, the media is biased. Yes, the media might be biased. I'm not saying that the media is not biased. This is not the thing to prove that the media is biased. And then by pointing to a piece of evidence that is so weak to say this is evidence of media bias, you're going to cause a lot of people to say, you know, this is kind of stupid. Media probably not biased. This is not the hill to stand on to say this is the example of media biases. The media reported the situation, and it wasn't a pretty situation. So why do you think why do you want praise over this? Not a peep from the media because we accomplished something that was politically motivated and not necessarily for the benefit of the nation as a whole, not necessarily an example of good governance, not necessarily the example of responsible financial decision making. Because again, you hid it from the budget to pad your deficit, not to pad it to increase, but to make sure it looked as low as possible. I wonder why. And then you try to sell us on the fact that that's responsible budgeting. You have a bachelor's in economics, sir. No offense. I know people with bachelors of economics. They don't go to the press and call themselves economists. This is ridiculous. This is utterly ridiculous. This is one of the saddest attempts of, I don't know what, attention seeking? For what? For what? Because dare I say, have you explained to the country how you financed that back pay? And if it's some other back pay you're talking about, that just shows that you don't necessarily understand the context of the time frame of what you're speaking about. Because right now, the back pay is the PSA's back pay. How you're financing it? Please tell me. Because don't say, oh, it's easy, we found the money, no problem, no sweat off our backs. Because you made a good job making it seem as though that it was stressing you out, and that's why you had the CPO act in the manner that he had to act. And then the Prime Minister has to come and run cover to say, oh, well, he's, you know, the guy that by law has to follow the instructions. In the law, it says he has to follow the instructions of the Minister of Finance. Not just does it say that he has to take the recommendations, but he has to follow the instructions of the Minister of Finance. That guy somehow is independent. And when you make these follies in communication, it undermines your image in other areas. I haven't even necessarily broken down the policy decisions per se. This is mostly about communications and the poor attempts to do so. Mr. Minister, this is another example of it would have been better if you said nothing. Saying nothing because you already had turned this situation with regards to back pay, with regards to back pay for the PSA workers, with regards to back pay for the RHA, direct employed workers. With regards to back pay for other workers, I believe like the teachers, it was already a negative story in the news. For you, not for the PNM. For you, because you couldn't manage it. You couldn't manage how to lead the country, explain the country the actual reality of the situation, because, hey, you don't want to give out all this money. And I understand that. I don't disagree with it. But you already have this controversial topic in the news where people are disgruntled. Some parts of the labor force are disgruntled, the public labor force. And you decide, oh no, let me not keep my head down and limit my exposure at a time when people probably don't like the government's position with regards to finances right now. Let me go and have a status message to say, well, the media is biased because they're not praising me for the political promises that I made. Or sorry, that I kept. There's one last thing I'll say today as I came up today. This is just quick. Apparently, residents of Powder Magazine, they are back to where they were, I believe, either last year or the year before. I think it might have been the year before. When, of course, we had last year, where they had a mass shooting incident. They feel at that point again. Because apparently police patrols have declined and illegal activity is back. Now, to what extent, what type of activity, I don't think it necessarily says, right? And this is the problem with relying on police presence to solve problems. Oh my gosh, there's school violence, let's put the police in. Did that solve it? No. Oh my gosh, there's violence here, let's put the police in. Does that solve it? No. It's the same thing like the state of emergency. It can suppress it. But the moment you take it away, there is no guarantee, if you did no other changes, that the reduction in crime and criminal activity will stick. Now, granted, this current government and this current police executive did not necessarily make that decision. So, it's not totally their fault. I don't know what shifting priorities they have. Christmas is coming up, Carnival is coming up, and it's going to be all hands on deck for Carnival. I get that. This just goes to show how, at the end of the day, with a year where we had 9 months plus out of the year under state of emergency, at least 9 months, I believe, if not more, were under state of emergency. When they want to say that crime is down, the only response after that is, that's cute. But unless you could show me why crime is down, other than the fact that there's a state of emergency, well, let's revisit the topic and assess the situation when the state of emergency is over and we have a couple of months to see how things goes. Because right now, I have yet to see anything to say, while there is a little bit more in certain areas that I appreciate from this administration and from the police executive, or at least the commissioner. There's a little bit more in certain areas. Overall, I'm not really getting a sense that things overall are better than they were before. Let's take a break. When we come back, well, actually, no, let's not take a break. Let's not take a break. Because let me just keep going, and we'll wait on our media ambassador to come in. It's Christmas time. We have more messages. We have more messages said. All right, no, but hold on. Look, let me switch now. Let me switch gears. Let me be balanced this morning. I didn't necessarily comment on this last week, but there's a whole thing about the mayor of Arima going to a UNC fundraiser and not going to the Arima Borough Council, UNC Christmas party fundraiser, and not going to the Arima Borough Corporation Christmas dinner. And now here's the thing. I kind of understand, politically it's not a good look. Politically, right? With regards to the PNM people, we'll be looking at this. Technically, I believe he was put there under the PNM, or elected under the PNM, and he's going to a UNC party. You know, how we go look. right? On one hand, there is the whole perception of, oh, well, now the UNC is power, you're gonna press the flesh and shake hands and start to try to get close to the UNC because they're in power. But the flip side is this. Bali Maharaj, and full disclosure, he has called on the show a few times. He's been interviewed on the show at least once. He's the mayor of Arima. And he has to work, to some extent, with the government of the day. So, optically, it does look bad if he skipped, and I don't believe that that is a matter on the public record, that he skipped the Arima Borough Corporation Christmas dinner. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about that, because I believe part of the reporting is a member of the PNM, hold on, a spokesperson in the PNM, why is this sticking now? Basically asking a question if he attended the Arima Borough Corporation dinner, right? Now, the problem is when you kind of then phrase the argument about political disloyalty, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. And that, on the flip side, on the other end of the spectrum, to me, looks bad when you go from party politics to national politics. Because this is one of those things where, and to be fair and frank, both parties do this. Both parties do this. But it doesn't matter what your track record is. It doesn't matter what your character is proven to be. Once you are seen as engaging with the other side, you are, if not a traitor, you are 2 steps from being a traitor, 1 step away from being a traitor. And you are potentially ostracized forever. And this leads to people, this is why there's very few, if any, and potentially none, politically neutral, objective operators, technocrats. Because you can be politically neutral all you want. You will be labeled as a party person once you are noticed while under a particular party's administration. Like the CMO. He's basically forever PNM. We don't even know what his, I don't even know what his personal politics are. For all I know, he voted for Congress of the People and UNC his whole life. I could be wrong, but maybe that's what he did. You know, that would be the stereotypical assumption, but I could, you know, but it could be wrong. But for all we know, that's what he did. But because he was the CMO during COVID, and because he served under Terence Dayal Singh, Minister of Health, under Dr. Traoré regime, he is a PNM CMO now. Both sides do it, by the way. But I think this is one of those cases where, what do you want the guy to do? He's mayor of Arima. If he sees the need to go to a UNC event, now it's a fundraiser, so that kind of makes it optically worse. But the flip side is, if he's going to advocate for Arima with regards to things like budget allocations, he can't do that at Balize House. So, I don't know, right? The thing is, if we had a saner political environment, I would be fine with criticisms of Mayor Balaram Maharaj, but we don't. So I can't necessarily just look at it from the obvious, straightforward lens. Because a saner political situation, one, would give some allowances for, to some extent, socialization and cross-pollination. And not necessarily, because I'm assuming he's not jumping ship, but being able to engage with the other side. A saner political environment would have some allowances for that. Also, a saner political environment would then have some allowances for, well, just a better overall political environment where we probably wouldn't have even been here in the first place. So I don't know if him having to do this is an extreme attempt to try to solve his problems, because normal recourse doesn't work because our politics is so divided. It is what it is. With that said, let's take a break. We'll welcome the media ambassador. It's the Christmas season. There's more to talk about to ensure that you do not become a victim. Well, let me not say ensure. There's no guarantees. But the advice is so that you could limit your exposure as much as possible. I advise you to heed it. When we come back, stay tuned.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have 2. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Remember waking up early just to catch your favorite cartoons? WESN brings back those magical mornings with Retro Saturdays.
Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born!
Where the young at heart relive the fun. Join us every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, only on WESN, the content capital.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
We're back here. I'm talking about WSND Content Capital, and we're joined by Inspector Kirk Callender, TTBS Media Ambassador. Here, not necessarily speak about, I misremembered the message, not necessarily speak about Christmas safety tips, but we just had the home invasion bill passed. It is now law, and the media ambassador is here to speak about home safety tips, which right now, in part because it's the Christmas Carnival period, super period, if you want to say, for lack of a better way to put it, it might be even more pertinent than before, especially since, the drug money seems to be drying up real fast. Inspector Callender, welcome to Talking Points.
Blessed morning to you, Sean. Blessed morning to all of Trinidad and Tobago. And it's, as always, a pleasure to be back here this morning.
All right, so this bill is now law. It is the Home Invasion Act. And it is a situation that, well, it changes the status quo, right? Now the question is, has it changed the status quo enough in order to function in the way it hoped to function? And if it potentially changed the status quo too much in unexpected areas, where do you want to start off with this bill?
Well, before I get into the act, as we were discussing off here, is after the Tolerance Act, I think is one of the scariest piece of legislation that I have ever come across. It is quite frightening, and depending on what side of the fence you sit,
right,
it leaves a lot more questions than answers. But that being said, it is the law now, and we have to treat with it in its current format until, right? But before we get into that, I just want to touch on first some general home safety tips to prevent home invasion.
Right.
Before we get into the
I think this is one of those things, and I said this multiple times, and I say this again. When former military guys, and I'm talking about some former fat GI, I'm talking about Delta, was asked about protecting his home, he redirected it, because the implication of the question was what firearms you have for home protection. And he redirected it to lights, camera, dogs, not shotguns, handguns, rifles.
Exactly, because the average home may not have that, right? So you have to use other means to protect yourself. So to start with, your home is your castle, and you should do whatever it takes to fortify your home as best as you possibly can, in accordance with the laws, of course. So you can start by strengthening your entry points. Install solid core or metal exterior doors. There are some doors now that come with 12 locks.
Yes.
I think there's some in the bottom, some in the top, and some in the side, and
yes.
so on. So you can start with that. Deadbolt locks with the 1-inch through. And secure sliding doors with security bars or a dowel stick, right? Reinforce door frames and hinges, and install peepholes, because, well, some doors come with it, they could peep through and so on, or door cameras to verify visitors. You can set it up in such a way that you can be at work and somebody rings the bell at your door or at your gate, and you can answer the person. You can see who it is and answer them from your phone at work, you know? Right? So these are some of the safety features. We cannot stress on improving the exterior of your homes, visibility and lighting. So, for example, where you live, the street light might not work, or it might work conveniently. That now creates a situation where if you have to leave your home very early in the morning or come home late at night, that front area of your home is in the dark. So we are saying, I would have mentioned this already, the dusted on lights, how to convert the ordinary bulbs into dusted on lights where you can leave on your switch 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
And it converts the ordinary LED bulbs or any bulb you want to use into dusted on light, because you purchased this equipment or device, if you want to call it that, from any normal electrical store. And you can screw the bulb into that, and now screw that into your socket outside. So and that converts, because like it has an eye that traps the sun, or when the sun hits it, or when darkness hits it, the light comes on and off, right? So it's very cost effective, right? Install motion sensor lights around entrances and dark areas.
Yes.
Keep your pathways and yards clear of overgrown bushes and clutters. The criminal elements find just about anything or any opportunity they can to pounce on you.
Because part of it is, the first step is they have to hide from the neighborhood. Because if they don't hide from the neighborhood, they run the risk of somebody calling the police or having a witness, depending on if they cover their faces or not. So it's not, so that's, in a sense, the community is the first step. So if they could infiltrate the community undetected, part of it is now you and your neighbors should, as much as possible,
live good.
Have lighting and not so much clutter, and if you have a whole set of trees overhanging bushes and stuff.
Exactly. But not only that, it pays to live good with the neighbor as well.
Right.
Because the neighbor, you know the neighbor's family, the neighbor knows your family. So if you see someone in the neighbor's yard, or the neighbor sees somebody in your yard, and they never saw that person before, the relationship you have with your neighbor, the neighbor calls you, sends you a WhatsApp. Hey, I see a strange person in your yard. Do you expect anybody, you told anybody to do any work by you and so on?
Yes.
It pays, so that is the neighborhood watch now. You looking out for your neighbor, the neighbor looking out for you, right? I mean, that beats any. And
then also, like, let's just say there's smoke, or you left the window open, or you left a light on during the day, or whatever. They could contact you and say, hey, you know, something is in your house. It's not just for crime. It's also like, you know, people could watch your house for you. Just by the way, because if you know them and they know you, then they're more comfortable. Be like, hey, I smell some smoke. You know, you left the stove on?
And they see water coming through your front door.
Right, yes.
And they know, well, John not home or Janet not home, and I'm seeing, so let me give Janet a call, or let me give John a call. So all those things are very important, because a pipe might burst or something might happen, right? Use technology and smart security, and I think I was just mentioning that. So CCTV or video doorbells, ensure cameras cover the entrances, your driveway, and the perimeter.
Yes.
Right, alarm system with loud sirens detain through that. So you know it have these air horns, they are extremely loud.
Yes. And the thing I like about the air horns is, because the problem with an automatic alarm is, when it goes off, at times, especially back in the day, you get preconditioned to ignore it almost 99% of the time. But with the air horn, it's like, well, that wasn't because any iguana tripped the sensor and it's going off. You know what I mean? Exactly. Now, it could be that you got spooked by the iguana making noise in the bushes, but at least you made, people know that you are thinking that there's a problem.
Yes, and in addition, now there's a way to use the air horn. Do not allow your children to use it unnecessarily, because you might end up like the little boy that cried wolf. When an emergency finally happens and you choose to use the air horn, nobody would take you seriously. We're going to say, yeah, she children always play with that, or his children always playing with that, right? So there is a way to use your ear horn only in cases of emergency, right? So connect alarms to armed response or local police alerts if available. So some persons has a security company that when the alarm trips, it notifies the security company, who in turn notifies the police, right? So it's important that you have that additional layer of security, right? Never leave spare keys under the mat or the pots or mailboxes. That was in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and possibly the 80s, probably the 90s, but
yeah,
not
because
now.
it's on TV all the time.
Yes. So and
even not too long ago, there was a Robert De Niro movie. They just couldn't find the key, but they were trying to break in. They were trying to break in the mother's house. They just couldn't find the key. But it was one of those things where I guess it's almost such a trope now, and especially if you are observed moving the key or using the key.
Correct. Right, and in addition to that, ensure workers, contractors, and guests are supervised. If they are hired to work on the outside, they could very well find themselves on the inside.
But also, if the neighbor sees someone strange and new, you need to be there so that you can say, yes, 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 it's fine.
Yes, John working.
Because
I send
John might get arrested if you're not there.
Correct.
But poor John just says about the lawn.
But in addition to that, persons may come to do work for you or on the premise that they are doing, but they are scoping out your house for the criminal elements. Or they may be part of the criminal enterprise. So be careful who you hire. Do proper background checks and so on. Do your research. Get referrals from reputable persons and stuff like that. So the person who is coming to your home is reputable people.
But also, because we've touched on this before.
Yes.
John could just be precocious. But the problem is, precocious people at times, they have loose lips.
Exactly.
So John is harmless. So because John is harmless, you think, he's just John. Yeah, but people that don't always have a sense of boundaries might also not realize one of the boundaries is, I've been in your house. I'm not about to now just tell every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and then it gets to the criminal elements.
Exactly. Lock your doors and windows even when you're at home. So,
yes.
I mean, sometimes you're home, the place hot, you want a little fresh breeze and so on. Yeah, or you are inside, upstairs, the back door open, the front door open, your house is left unsecured. That might attract the peering eyes and the wrong set of eyes and persons. And next thing you come downstairs and see somebody in your living room.
Also, no flies. Then all of a sudden you open a door, flies.
Yeah.
Right? But that's secondary. That's second. My thing is, I honestly don't understand. Yes, I understand your home. But the point of fortifying your house is so that they can't immediately get inside the house. You have a chance to respond.
Exactly. So you have, even if the door is open, it still have this like a kind of burglar proofing.
Yeah.
Some persons use that, and that is locked. Right. So even though the door is open, you still have some other layer of protection.
Because I think part of it is people think, well, it's daytime, it's fine. But no, daytime, nighttime is not necessarily a determinant factor of if you're going to get a home invasion at a time. And it's not going to be one guy. It's not going to be one guy coming into your house and then you're just there and you're like, well, I'll just fight him off. It's going to be 4 to 8 guys.
Yes.
And are there 4 to 8 men in the household, not teenage boys, not old men, right?
More often than not, no.
Exactly.
And in addition to that, the persons who come around, during Christmas, you have many people coming around. Persons willing to cut your yard because they realize, well, family are cutting yard and thing, and I'm charging X price. You know your yard needs cleaning, and the price they offered, you know you don't have the time to do it, so you may very well be inclined to say, well, okay, I will take you up on your offer. Nothing may be wrong with that, but some of those persons may have ulterior motives. So you have to be you have to be mindful of that.
With that said, so that also means man cutting your yard, he not coming in the house, Why the house ought to be unlocked? You'd oughta be there in front yard with him to watch him mow your yard. You could watch him from inside your house with your house locked.
Correct. And there are other persons who may be coming around. Charity now it's Christmas time, they're collecting a little. They either need assistance to purchase groceries or toys for their children, or they are soliciting funds to purchase stuff for the less privileged.
I mean, I can't
You have to be mindful of that.
I can't speak for everybody, but since I'm trying to not reach that point, don't really have that leeway, and I suspect a lot of people don't either. So this is one of those things where just direct them to an organization who could go through the process and have the resources.
No, but if they appealed to your soft side, if they would have appealed to your soft side, you do have to let them in your house.
Well, that too, yeah.
You can tell them, well, hold on by the gate, let me bring whatever it is what the Lord placed on your heart to bless them with. You do have to let them into your yard, you do have to let them into your
house. Leaving your house to go to your gates.
Is correct, you have to open the gate.
You still coming out your house.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the problem. Like, people need to understand right now, that's maybe not a thing. I hate to say this, but I would argue if you're middle class or below, you probably, you're going to stretch yourself if you try to help anybody anyway.
And then you do it once, they may want to come back all the time.
Well, that's the other.
I'm just saying. Right, so
it could be a security situation because, your heart bleeding and you're like, oh, this person needs help. Meanwhile, no, that's a fishing expedition to want to see who coming out the house, right? Because it's not as though it's not like you have a multi-door airlock, right, where you have a sealed chamber between your front door and your front gate, and you lock your house behind you, and you have multiple locks, and then it's a see-through lock gate.
If you don't have cameras, your house would have blind spots that you might not be able to see when you are exiting or entering your house. So you know he's in front, but you don't know who is to the back or the side.
You would have to physically come out to hand him something. Exactly. And once you do that, you are potentially vulnerable. And if you don't think criminals won't exploit that, you have another thing coming, because they'll exploit anything.
Anything. I mean, they may come with a doll crying like a child.
Right.
3 hours of the morning, late in the night for assistance is a fake child, right? It is a doll. So those of you who have a soft spot for people, be wise and don't be otherwise, right? Build a safe routine. So always check your surroundings before entering your home like I do. I make a 360 around my house before I go in my house. Well, as a man, for the female, mightn't be advisable.
It might be more important. Well, when you say 360, as in walk around.
Yeah, to walk around my house.
No, I would say you should kind of like, before you pull up to your gates.
Well, yeah, just scan your scan.
Yes, especially for women, because getting out of the car to go into the house is when you're most vulnerable, right?
Correct. And people, please don't jump out your vehicle with the keys in the ignition, door open, to open the gate. And when some vehicles are push start, like mine. So we would have seen on many occasions, person's vehicle got stolen. They jump out of the vehicle, leave the vehicle in the road, jump out the vehicle, left the door open with the ignition running, of course, to open the gate. And by the time they opened the gate and they turned around, they saw the spot the vehicle was.
Yes, I have friends who do this all the time, not just to open the gates. And they're like, it's safe. And I'm like, is it?
Is it? Right?
Because even if you think that it's safe and it's fine and there's ways to get back your car, right, and there's ways to get recompense, you still have to go through the time and emotions and the inconvenience and the stress. And that's assuming they'll save it at your car. And that's also assuming you don't have valuables in your car, and you may or may not have like a toddler in your car. Because if you go to open the gate and they take off with your car, there's no opportunity for you to say, please let me just get my baby out of the car. And if they don't notice that, they're gone.
They're gone. They might arrest the child anyway. Right. So don't openly display valuables near windows. We spoke about this already. Right? Persons can fish stuff out if you leave the windows open. Or even break it. Keep car keys and handbags away from the front door to prevent reaching theft. So there is supposed to be a place in your house where you place your keys It shouldn't be close to the door, close to the windows where they could break it, fish things out and so on. Right? As we were mentioning earlier, create a safe neighborhood habits. We were speaking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Right? So join or establish a station council or the neighborhood watch, or share suspicious activity information with trusted neighbors, similar to what we were speaking about.
And just for people to understand, even if you think the police in your station are not doing enough or the neighborhood watch is not effective enough, do it anyway. Yeah. Do it anyway for multiple reasons. At the very least, you could say, well, I attempted to utilize all the options to me. So, and, you know, because this is the Home Invasion Act, so there's the other end of the act. So when you go, so when I felt unsafe, you know, you can at least point to the fact that you engaged in all the other things, and it was not just the final solution that you were looking at.
Yep. So report strange vehicles, persons, casing properties, as we were speaking about, or attempted break-in into the TTPS immediately. The criminals are quite clever, where I would have seen, well, not seen, now heard on many occasions, the neighbor and the neighbor not getting along, and the neighbor got a phone call indicating, but girl, you were easy. Say, well, what do you mean? They say, well, you could have tell me you moving out. Well, what do you mean I not moving out? Well, I see a van pull up by you, you know, and they pack up everything in your house and they drive off. So I thought you were moving out. I said, but how come you ain't tell me nothing, girl? It's bandits breaking the house, clean out the house and drive away, you know. But the neighbors saw all that.
But
after the fact.
But also, when you as a private citizen now, maybe you're looking for your destination or whatever, and you're in a neighborhood that you're not normally in. I think part of the problem is, because I remember when I went to somebody's house, I've known the person for a while, but the first time I went to his house, and I didn't know the area. So of course you're driving slow, you're checking the map, you know, you pull over, you check the map, you kind of see where you are, you keep driving slow, you miss the house, you pull over again, you check the map. That to an outsider looks like, hey, he's casing this house, he's casing that house. And it's one of those things where perhaps, you know, not that there's much you could do about it. You can't like put a sign, I am just trying to find, you know, because to some extent that's what the criminals will say. But be aware that if anyone kind of wants to question you, don't be all defensive and entitled. What were you questioning me for? They live here. You the outsider coming into here.
Strange vehicle.
Right.
Because this is Christmas time. A lot of deliveries are going to be made at people's homes from both local and abroad. And on many occasions, even if you send them your location, they may pull up 2 houses before you or 2 houses after you. Or miss your house, miss the street altogether.
And if it's a delivery van, well, I would assume some home invasions, the vehicle of choice would be a van, because you could hide the amount of people in a van easier than in a normal SUV, sedan, hatchback with windows.
Yeah, I mean, but in addition to that, right, you could get a perfect description of somebody's house that they gave you to drop off this stuff, and you could be in the completely wrong place.
Yes.
By a similar house with similar description.
Yes.
And as far as you are concerned, well, I am in the right place. And hold on, I come in just now, and this person seeing this strange vehicle park up outside the house for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, only arm your phone. Where you at? But not see, but right here, but not seeing you, you're on the wrong street.
Because you'll find the house to fit
the description.
And saying, well, it must be this house.
It had to be this house, that is the description. And sometimes persons are not too good at giving descriptions. Trinidadians and Tobagoans are quite terrible, actually, at giving direction. And even Google Maps and Waze are sending in the wrong place.
Yes, don't take it for granted that the digital devices will be 100% accurate. No issues, fail safe.
So you have to be careful about that. Practice situational awareness. So be alert when entering driveways or garages. Avoid distraction. Your phone. If followed or feel unsafe, drive to a police station or public area rather than home. I passed my house many times because I just believe some vehicle was following me. About 3 or 4 corners, a vehicle following me. I said, well, okay, I am going to pass my house straight. I would make the block to see where you are going before I pull into my driveway. It turned out, well, the person wasn't really following me, but I'm not taking any chances.
Yeah.
Right?
And just note, if a police officer is not taking any chances, I mean, who's the rest of us?
Teach children to never open the door for strangers or to give out sensitive information. Your mom, no mommy at home. Who want you home? Well, I home alone.
Yeah, that's sensitive.
Which part mommy working? When mommy come home, well, she go to work early in the morning and she just come home late in the night.
We see the problem is, at least back in the day, that's my friend, how you can be rude to my friend? It's like, not supposed to tell a friend anything.
Anything. Right?
Because anybody that the child don't know could come to the child and say, I'm your parent's friend.
Exactly. So emergency preparedness now, keep emergency numbers readily accessible. I mean, you cannot be living in a place and they don't know the police station number.
Right.
Well, 999 is always a free call, 999, 555 and so on. Establish a household safety plan, a safe room location and exit routes. Right? Have a charge phone accessible at night. It is beyond me how people could have to tell well, their phone discharge and their home. My phone didn't have any charge. Right? So have a charge phone accessible at night. Red flags that may signal targeting. Unknown person asking unusual questions. Again, persons coming around asking all kind of questions. Repeated sighting of vehicles parked near your home. Pay attention to that. Sudden knocks pretending to be utility or delivery workers. If you didn't expect, I mean, persons could pretend to be P&Tech or as a Ministry of Works. Person was come to spray from mosquito and so on.
Yeah, regional code, yeah.
So you need to ask for some identification, right? You need to ask that. And if you didn't expect a package, why, I mean, yes, your husband or your wife or your children may be trying to surprise you.
Would it be advisable to ask them, well, this might not even matter. I don't know if, this is now where like various institutions might need to have a phone number.
Yes, to call to verify.
Because I was not going to say, ask them to tell the office to call you.
Yes, please.
Means they could just tell somebody, hey, call so and so, right? So this is one of those things where to verify, because you could potentially get fraudulent ID that won't stand up in court but a police officer, but how Joe Public ain't going to need it for us.
And the first question you're asking, do you have an employee by the name of John Brown?
Yeah.
Do you have someone by the name of John Brown employed at your location?
Yeah.
Yes or no? So that is the first place to start. Right? Describe John Brown from a place.
Right, because they might be, we've already seen where criminals use
other persons'
the actual real people's names.
Yes, I mean, I could tie you up somewhere, take your uniform, take your ID and so on, and pretend to be you. Right? So, sudden knocks, right, well, tampered gates, locks, or windows. So you may be about to go into your house and you realize, well, your front door is tampered with. Your window is open.
Yeah.
Your front door open. It is not advisable to enter your house. Right? Call the police. Seek refuge by the neighbors somewhere, but do not, it is not advisable. Say one except you might be Blackie Chan or Arnold Schwarzenegger and so on with a fireman, you want to enter, well, no problem. Still not advisable, but to the ordinary citizen, common man like you and I, who do have those sort of training and so on.
Because they could be inside the house.
They can be inside the house, and you may interrupt them whilst they are, securing your valuables for you.
But I would also argue, if you think they didn't get all the way in, still don't go inside the house because they might be waiting on you to come home.
That's right. That's right. So it's deterrence plus delay plus detection are key principles to reduce the chance of invasion and increase response time. Deterrence plus delay plus detection are key principles to reduce the chance of invasion and increase response time. Right, so that is it for now. We'll stick up in for now and we will delve into the Home Invasion Act. which was assented to on the 16th of December, 2025. So it is now law.
I mean, this is one of those things where it's kind of funny. It's like, it is now law. It's like, well, I mean, I kind of expected it to be law, so I guess, all right, it's now formal, right? But it was pushed for, and it has some. Well, it's just one of those things where I guess is we'll learn more when it's tested in the court, I guess you could say.
And that statement you made is quite interesting, and I would just wonder. I would bring back that point just now. So it starts with some definitions. Some of them I want to go through because I don't know how much time we might have to discuss it and so on. So it describes what is an associated place. And it says any place that is used exclusively in connection with or for purposes ancillary to the occupation of a dwelling house, or any place where a dwelling house is one of two or more dwelling houses, I like condos, in one building or group of buildings that occupants of the dwelling houses use in common with each other, right? Use in common with each other. And it also gives a definition for the curtilage, and I will tell you lower down why these definitions are important. We will just, right, so a curtilage in relation to a dwelling house means any area immediately surrounding or adjacent to the dwelling house, which is used for purposes connected with human habitation in conjunction with the dwelling house, regardless of whether the area is surrounded by a fence, a natural boundary, or a combination of both, or B, is enclosed in a manner that indicates the occupant's intention to keep persons off his property, right? But does not include any other part of the area that is a public place, right? So we're not speaking about a public place, we're speaking about your private property.
Yeah.
Right. And it gives two definitions of force. One is deadly force, the other one is defensive force. Yeah, so what deadly force means any use of force that is likely to cause or create a substantial risk of causing death or grievous bodily harm, including but not limited to the discharge of a firearm. Right, so you could use any weapon to
right. Yes, that's what they say. Right now, as much as the talk was centered around firearms and use of firearms and the narrative, the argument as well, the bill is not limited to firearms.
Right. They call it a weapon of opportunity. I think that is how they describe it. Right. So defensive force means the justifiable and reasonable use of force by a person acting in self-defense, in defense of property, or in defense of another. The justifiable and reasonable use of force. Justified and reasonable use of force.
This is one of those
by
things
a person,
now.
yes, acting in self-defense, in defense of property, or in defense of another person. Remember the definition for defensive force. Trinidad and Tobago, we'll be coming back to that.
But that's defensive force is reasonable force, right?
Well, the force has to be reasonable according to the law and justified.
My problem is when you need a dictionary to understand the definition, right? You need another definition to understand that definition. Let me put it that way.
So that is a gray area right there. You are quite correct. Dwelling house. Now, under the Larceny Act, it gave a definition for dwelling house, right? Under this Home Invasion, Self-Defense and Defense of Property Act, there is another definition for dwelling house.
Right.
And this is where they shift the goalpost, for want of a better term. So dwelling house includes any structure or part of a structure, whether permanent or temporary, and whether fixed or capable of being moved, which is designed or adapted for use as a dwelling or residence. And the biggest difference between this definition and the definition under the Larceny Act, a dwelling house has to be fixed.
Right.
Under the Larceny Act.
Right.
So this act is saying, well, no, this definition is saying your dwelling house could either be permanent or temporary. It could be fixed or it could move. So you see where they are going.
Because it's become more of a thing where people are actively utilizing not necessarily mobile homes, but either boats or converted vehicles to have a nomadic lifestyle. Now the question is, to what extent will that reach an island the size of ours, being how small we are? But, I mean, depending on your economic situation, it might be appealing to some because it might be cheaper, right? I mean, when you think about it, buying a van should be cheaper than buying a house in TNT, right? If my memory is correct. Now the question is, you know, how many people will want to do that?
And there are some persons who also live in containers as well. So and B is saying, as it relates to the definition of dwelling house, any adjacent land, building or other structure within the same curtilage as a dwelling house and occupied for the same purpose, but we're going to see now, it also defines a dwelling house as any boat,
yes,
ship, or other vehicle in or on which a person resides, which has been designed or adapted for use as a dwelling or residence, or an associated place. Now remember, we gave the definition for an associated place.
But question, because in some jurisdictions, traditionally, sleeping in your car was seen as basically a homeless.
An offense, yes.
Right? And an offense. So part of my question is, what is the current legal status of people sleeping in a vehicle? Is it viewed as something that is permissible or not? Because, I mean, it varies, right? So you can't assume everywhere you go it's going to be legal. And I don't know for sure about TNT. So I guess I'm asking, do you know if it's legal or not?
And that is a very interesting question, because it says here, any boat, ship, or other vehicle in or on which a person resides, which has been designed or adapted for use as a dwelling or residence. So does that include a person whose house burned down or is homeless and is now living in his vehicle? Very interesting. And it also says, and it is immaterial if the dwelling house from time to time if the dwelling house is from time to time uninhabited. So you do not necessarily have to live there regularly or continue, because you might have a dwelling house in the east, you live in the west.
But one thing though, based on that definition, it makes me question now, because there are varying degrees of adoption.
Right.
I have seen the most famous things are, you see vans like a Mercedes Sprinter van, or I don't know if that's the cheapest option, but that for whatever reason is a very popular option, right? You'll put a bed either in the back or it will drop down from the ceiling, right? You'll have like a bathroom area just by the door, somewhere behind where the driver would sit. You'll have a little kitchen area. You know, that's adapted. You have cupboards.
Yes.
Right? You have you have living spaces. You have a proper bed. Then you have people who, well, they just put some plastic containers in the back to hold the various things, and they might have a mattress on some crates. And is that adapted to be a dwelling place, I guess is the question, right?
Very interesting.
Or you literally just, it's a car, you sleep in the car.
Right.
You recline, you know, maybe you have pillows, maybe you don't have it, but you sleep in the car. There's zero actual adaptation to the vehicle.
Right.
So that, because I'm all for, yes, it might happen, and yes, I think people should have a right to protect themselves even if they're sleeping in a car. But if the bill basically says it has to be adapted, then what is the legal limits of adaptation of that?
Exactly. Very, very, very good question. But in addition to what you said there, the only thing I own right now in my life, I lost my job, I lost my home. The only thing that I am left with to live in is my car.
Yeah.
So I can adapt it however I choose to make myself comfortable and my life comfortable, because I don't have anything else, I don't have anywhere to go.
My house burned down today. I have no one that could take me in. I have no choice. It's not adapted. What do you want from me?
But I'm living in it.
Because
I don't have anywhere else to live.
There's a very good chance if you're in your car late at night
and somebody attacks you,
somebody will look to, because
you might be an easy target.
Yeah.
You understand? So those are some very interesting questions, and these are some of the questions that other persons have.
I'll say this for security: if you are somebody that likes to live in a car or whatever, depending on the situation, it might be a lot easier to live in a friend's driveway than to crash in their house.
Well, with the permission,
right?
eh?
It might, with their permission, yes. In the sense of, it's a lot harder to be like, can I spend a few weeks with you, as opposed to, can I park my car in your driveway for a few weeks? Right. I think it's a little less intrusive. It might be a little bit easier, and it might be safer for you to do so. I don't know who does it in TNT, but in case you do.
Right, so we have the definition of enters. Enters,
yeah,
in relation to a dwelling house, means any intrusion by a person or an instrument they control. So you don't even have to enter physically, right? So any intrusion by a person or an instrument they control across the threshold or opening of a dwelling house, or into the curtilage or into an associated place of a dwelling house, and that person obtains entry without lawful justification or excuse by a threat or a deception or by collusion with a person within the dwelling house, right? So basically, of course, without lawful justification or excuse, well, I think that even that has some gray areas there as well, because persons can be, and I don't want to, I'm just giving you some real life scenarios here. There was a situation where a PH driver transported a young lady.
Right.
He was of the opinion, whether or not he was of the opinion that she was old, she was a child. And for want of a better term, he was lured into the home of the young lady. Right?
Wait. Are you telling me there's two crimes going on at the same time?
No, well, this is over a period of time, and so because to commit the offense of sexual grooming,
right, okay,
you have to
But you said he was lured.
Yeah, he was lured by the parent of the child. Because she was now pretending to be the child, communicating with the person.
Oh, okay. Right. So it is two crimes happening at the same time, in a sense.
Yeah, so
he was sexually grooming, and then the parents
pretend to be the child.
Right.
And lured him home.
Right.
So I am giving you this scenario now to come back to this home invasion act.
Right.
Because he was not invited. Well,
here's the problem.
According to them, he was not invited.
So I can understand. He was under the impression that he was not invited, ironically.
Yes.
But technically speaking, the communication did not. You see, that's the thing. If the child did it, that's fine, because any parents in the dark.
Well, as far as he considers the child.
Right. But technically, ironically, if the parent does it, you're kind of soliciting that behavior.
Exactly.
So you can't say,
so
well,
you're really setting up, you're putting the man in place, as we see in local parlance.
But this kind of brushes to what I was taught in business law courses with regards to property, because one of the things is duty of care. Now, usually, of course, it's centered around a business place, because, something happened and you think, I'll go sue you, and you be worried about that. But it also extends, apparently, the legal practice to your private dwelling. So part of it now is that whole situation where, you're not supposed to set somebody up. And usually the example is, well, you're not supposed to booby trap your window because you know that they come and break in that window. So then when they break in the window the last time, they get some kind of hunter's trap with a makeshift shotgun and blows off half their face. You're not supposed, at least back in the day, you're not supposed to do that, right? So this situation, to me, is kind of similar in that way, where, well, you're setting up the man to what? Right. To shoot him, to say, well, he break it in. So there is that, which, I don't know. I mean, as much as some people might think it is justified some people might ethically think it's justified.
Right, to teach him a lesson.
Right, to teach him a lesson.
But it is an offense.
But legally, but then also, with regards to traps, just to ask, that's also something that, I know there's a stand your ground situation, but can you have traps in your house?
Well, you see, I don't think so, because what in essence you are basically saying, well, I foresee.
Yes.
And the law is saying, well, no.
You have to respond.
Yes, you have to respond.
Reasonably.
Yes.
And there's a difference between 6 men breaking in your door and maybe a child looking to try and sneak in and maybe like, oh, look, there's cookies on your table.
Exactly, and that is exactly what happened some years ago in South, where a little child, I think it was a child, was breaking into somebody's house and stealing food and so on. And he set up a guillotine and it cut off the child's hand.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if you could remember that.
Vaguely, because literally as you brought it up, I'm like, I wonder if this is a guillotine scenario.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the details.
Yeah, but again, the DPP didn't recommend any charges. He said, well, the tempered justice, the man lost several stuff, the child lost a hand, so.
I mean, I don't know if I think the penalty might, listen, it's not as though for burglary, amputation is the recourse of the day. I don't know if the child has like a rap sheet year long, right?
He was a little child.
Oh Lord. Hey, if this was of North America,
Yeah,
oh gosh, boy.
yeah.
We have St. James on the line. Caller, good morning. Caller? Hearing a lot of system songs.
Good morning to you and Inspector Calendar.
Morning to you, sir.
Calling from St. James.
Yeah.
Inspector Calendar, I told you about this some time ago. You know, your demeanor and animation, good. You're getting across the point very well.
Thank you, sir.
This not stand your ground. Yeah, stand your ground thing. This reasonable, how you call it?
Force.
Yeah. You see, your reasonable, your interpretation of reasonable might be different, totally different from my interpretation of reasonable. You know. Give me an example of the unreasonable thing. I listen up here. Right.
Well, the caller is quite correct, you know. Everybody would have a different interpretation of reasonable force. But lower down in the act, and we would get it, just, I wonder if I could get it now. It speaks about the force must be proportionate, or the action taken must be proportionate to, I think that is section between 6 and 9. Blah, blah, blah. So, for example, you are at home, and somebody enters your home uninvited and attacks you. And attacks you. You raise an alarm, whether it's through your air horn or whatever, and the whole village come out. Now, is it, and they give him a song cocktail, for want of a better term in local parlance, or a wonderful lesson in physical education, and the whole village take turns in giving him the lesson. Is that reasonable for us? Is that is the action taken proportionate to the offense committed?
You see, the problem is too that it is somewhat subjective already, right? But then when you add on the fact that, okay, was he injured or was he technically, you know, he was hurt?
He was beaten after death.
But he wasn't injured.
But there was a situation where they handcuffed somebody. I think they tried to break in somewhere. And while he was handcuffed, well restrained, he had hooked with zip tie and so on, everybody took turns kicking him and coughing him and all this kind of thing. So the question is that reason?
You see, not that I'm condoning this, but I've already seen a situation, I might have mentioned it last week with regards to tasers, where 2 police officers couldn't incapacitate one guy.
Right.
So it just continued to escalate over time. It was caught on body cameras and the dashboard cameras. And the perpetrator ended up shot, and I can't remember if he was killed or not, because it kept going, right? He was resisting physically all the way, and tasers weren't stopping him, right?
Right.
So now I could easily see where, you know, the community says, well, he kept fighting.
Right.
So we had to use overwhelming force to restrain him. And then, of course, now the question is, you know, again, if he has if all 4 of his limbs are broken, well, at some point he was incapacitated before you finish breaking his limbs, right? But if he just has a few bruises,
right,
you know, a cut lip, you know.
I mean, now the law is saying, well, let me backtrack. The law is saying you can ask for assistance or summon assistance someone to assist you whenever the offense of home invasion is committed or being committed, right? You can summon the assistance. However, as the person you summon to assist, person or persons, the assistance or the force that is used has to be proportionate.
Well, here is the other...
Which is subjective, by the way.
Here's the other trick to this, though. When you are outnumbered, right, which it seems as though that is a reasonable assumption.
No, but you is who? The victim or the perpetrator? Right, the victim is outnumbered.
When you are outnumbered. Right. Because I think part of it is, in a lot of cases, I don't expect home invasions to start off at the point where, well, I'm going to have a physical blunt object, and he's going to have a physical blunt object, and we're going to fight that manner. And it's going to be one-on-one, right? I expect it's going to be, they're going to have guns, and at the very least, I by myself cannot reasonably fight off multiple assailants, right?
Correct.
So now the question is, if I decide to fight, even though I am not dead yet, would it not be reasonable for me to use lethal force?
Correct.
Right? And then this also now comes to the part where the community is like, well, we had to beat them because they were all armed, so we got to jump on them and beat the hell out of them because they were all armed. We're not taking no chances. Right? But especially when you're by yourself now, and say they're breaking into the house, and I'm looking at, maybe there's not a good path for my family to escape. Right? Maybe they have the house surrounded. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, I either surrender and hope they don't kill us, or I use whatever is at my disposal, whether a gun, whether a knife, right?
Right. So this is the point, this is the part where I want to get at, Section 8 and 9. It says that Section 6 and 7 do not apply where a person against whom force is used or threatened has the right to be in or is an occupant in the dwelling house. Well, I think we would have mentioned that. So if you are, if I believe I have a right to be in the dwelling house, as I would have mentioned, a person going to visit his mother, he and some siblings or somebody get a renter.
Because I think it came up where people were questioning, where a politician was questioning about renters, and I'm like, well, that was one of the few things that they did spell out, that occupants would include renters. We do have Sanford on the line. Caller, sorry about the wait. Good morning, caller. You on the air?
Morning, Sean. Morning, Mr. Calendar.
Morning to you, sir.
Mr. Calendar, let me say this. That incident that you mentioned in South with the young lady who got her hand cut off. That goes back to the Offences Against the Persons Act, Section 25. In Section 25, it speaks about man traps, and it is not on, according to the act, it says it is not unlawful for you to set up a man trap in your house for the purpose of defending your house, to maim or cause grievous bodily harm to anybody or to a person. Once it is done between sunset and sunrise, that is still on the books of Trinidad and Tobago. I am so upset that I am seeing this Ground legislation, and there has not been an amendment to that particular section of the Offences Against the Persons Act, because home invasion can happen anytime. Why it is still only legal to do it in the night, basically? Rather than if I am out of my house, I am not around. Or according to all what they put in, what they consider your dwelling in this new act here. And I can't, if I go on vacation, I can't leave a trap in case somebody break in my house. I think that they need to review that. Eh? Now, that being said, let me ask you a question quickly. I had one of my relatives had an incident. A man walked in front of his vehicle and he hit the person. Wasn't a serious incident. The person fell down. He asked the person to take them to the hospital. They refused. So he asked them to take them to the police station. They refused. He asked them the name. They refused. But they insisted that they got financial compensation. And he did pay the person some money. He went to this police station not too far away. And after they argued about jurisdiction, because they're still doing that rubbish in this, that talking about jurisdiction when you can report an incident at any station. But that, be that as it may, he did that. They eventually said it was their station. They refused, after he explained the whole situation to them, they refused to take the report. They said to him, because he gave the person money, that they had a contract. So they are not under any obligation to take a report, and they never took a report from him. So if that person falls down and dies next week, and there was a witness, and he said, you know, this vehicle that hit the man, whatever, he does not have a piece of paper from the station saying that he made a report, because they refused to take the report and refused to give him a receipt. I want to hear your offer on that.
Well, caller, before you go,
yes?
Where you said the accident happened, I mean, you don't have to tell me the exact place, but was it in
Fernando?
And that is in a public place, right?
Yeah, it was on a public road.
All right, great. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Right, so what the caller described or mentioned is a road traffic accident.
Well,
right? Under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, there is a definition for a road, there is a definition for a vehicle, and there is also a definition for an accident, right? So, in relation to what he just said, all three elements, or all the elements for a road traffic accident is present or was present, and a report ought to have been made as soon as possible to the nearest police station or to any police officer in uniform about that road traffic accident, right?
Regardless of money paid out.
Yeah, that is a private matter because somebody was injured, right? So you're speaking about an accident taking place on a road where somebody was injured or either damage to property and so on. So a report ought to have been made as soon as possible by the driver to the nearest police station. The police now would have started their investigation, and depending on the cooperation of the injured party, then the police will determine how far this matter can go.
But it seemed as though they didn't want to investigate the situation.
Well, a report was made after the fact. But even if a report was made after the fact, the police ought to have still taken the man's report and investigate the report, submit their findings, and make recommendation whether or not the man accepted money or monies were paid. It is still an accident, and a report was eventually made, and the police ought to have taken the man's report and conduct an investigation.
Because relatively speaking, it could have been paid money out of wallet, went to the police station. It might have relatively been as soon as after the accident, he made the report. That was the next stop. But I think, that being said, while I disagree with the opinion of the officers that once he paid the money, it was a contract. Yes, exactly, right? I'll say this, I don't think that he should have paid the money, because as much as it is legally an accident, what that sounds like is a scam. And
or an admission of guilt.
Right, also paying the money is an admission of guilt, and it's potentially a scam, because this is a thing that you see in Russia and in certain Southeast Asian countries, right? To the point where you're driving and you see somebody walk into the road as you're approaching, and you stop, and they look at you, and you look at them. So then they kind of run towards your car as you're reversing, and as they touch the car, they fall over. You're reversing, by the way. And usually what gets people out of this is because they have dash cam footage, right? But the point is, you should have, the person should have taken out his cell phone and asked the victim, aka scammer, do you want to go to the hospital? Do you want to go to the police? Do you want to utilize all of the normal tools when there's an accident that needs to be done? And when the person says, no, I just want money, then the guy will say, well, I'll tell you what, let's go have a police report and I'll see you in court. and you have it all on film. And because the money, as you said, it is an admission of guilt.
But it could be.
Or it could be.
It could be. But I just want to mention one thing. Trinidad and Tobago, you all can make a report in any station.
Well, you see, the problem is, in this scenario, the main issue is not the payment of the money.
No.
The main issue
the
is...
police failed to take the man's report and to investigate his report. The caller is quite correct, and the driver is quite correct in making the report, and he can make it in any station.
All right, we have San Fernando back on the line. Caller, good morning. Welcome back.
I'm calling back, Sean. Yes, Inspector Calendar. He made the report right after the incident.
Okay.
Right after the
Exactly.
incident.
Yeah,
It wasn't the next day.
Yeah.
It was right after the incident. No. At that particular time, okay, even if it may look at a scam, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Because he pressed the person to take them to the hospital. They refused. He said, oh, let's go to the station. They even refused to give him their name. Eventually, because of where the accident happened, I knew some people in the area and found out who the person was.
Right.
But he went to, as I said, right after he went to the station, and even because he called me the day after and was at pains, he could not understand why they did not take the report.
Well,
it doesn't matter about the money and that, they just didn't take the report.
Well, caller, I am also confused as to why the police did not take his report. And it is never advisable, and this is not just for him, for all of Trinidad and Tobago, to don't just go about paying persons money just like that when you are involved in an accident. Make a report to the police and let the police conduct their investigation. If it is the police fail to take your report, then you can make a complaint to the complaints authority and the police complaints authority and the local complaints division in the police service, as it relates to the police failing to do their job. That is a neglect of duty.
And let me ask this one other thing, Mr. Calendar. Why it is that people are still complaining that when they go to a station to make a report, there is still this issue of jurisdiction that is being discussed depending on where the incident took place. The police is asking you where the incident took place, and then they say, no, this is not our station, it's the other station. And why this is still happening? Is there a clear policy with this?
Yes,
I want you to speak on that.
There is a clear policy in relation to that. All police stations there's a district. There is a station district, and all the station districts have boundaries. So the question will be asked, and it is not asked from the standpoint where the police don't necessarily want to take the report. You can make a report in any station. However, the officer is obligated to take their report, take the necessary action that is required there and then, pass on the report to the respective station district. If it is not his station district, of course he has to inform the person who is making the report and also indicate to them that an investigator would be appointed. So it is not always a case where when the police ask that, well, I not be district and I not taking the report. They have to ask so that they would know which station district it belongs to. So they would take the report, take the necessary action that is required there and then pass on the report to the respective station district for a follow-up, for a continuation.
I understand that, yeah, but I know how that is situation because in South here, as you would, I don't know if you're familiar with San Fernando, you should be. The amount of stations that they have, there's Marabella, there's San Fernando, there's Monrepo, then there's St. Margaret.
St. Margaret.
So they are so close. I had an incident on the highway, and I had the same jurisdiction issue between Monrepo and St. Margaret, and they keep sending me back and forth. I went 3 times back and forth to those stations. Eventually, a senior person decided, no, this is where you will make the report. Because the officer just had me going back and forth.
Well, sir, I am so sorry that happened to you.
Calendar. Thank you very much.
I am so sorry that happened to you, which it ought not to have been.
Do we have a call on WhatsApp?
Yeah, that in my ears.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
Because I'm hearing ringing for the last 10 minutes. And no one is answering messages. So now I'm putting it out there in the public. Let's end the show, because I'm sorry, Mr. Sanfana, I literally heard nothing that you said in our entire phone call. Nothing. So I'm sorry with regards to not responding to the situation, but I literally couldn't concentrate on the phone call at that point. With that said, I apologize to Mr. Calendar for all of that, and thank you for being able to respond to Mr. Sanfana despite the fact that it was phone call ringing in our ears for the entire time. Now, with that said, thanks to the callers for calling in. Thank you once again. With regard to this whole situation, it goes back to the traps. I just want to say, because I was able to, I still have a point from his original call with regards to the traps. Right. The whole home invasion situation is not self-evident that it is justified to have a trap, because home invasion's reasonable force measure depends now, to say that it goes back to what you said. We don't know the situation of whoever encounters the trap and triggers the trap and is a victim to the trap did anything to justify that level of force, whatever the trap is. If the trap is pepper spray, okay, fine. If the trap is a guillotine, yeah. If the trap is a shotgun shell to the face and it ends up killing the person, the current home invasion law technically doesn't justify that.
Right, but in addition to that, I don't think the Home Invasion Act was intended to replace all other existing laws as it relates to property, right? It is in essence, as it says, your home was invaded, because it is something that happens in most instances like that. You know, you are home and somebody just enters your premises or enters your home, as opposed to you are sleeping, because to set up these traps and so on takes time and all that kind of stuff. You know, the home invasion is a now for now thing, something that is quick, well, in some instances might be spontaneous or even planned. But while you are at home, your door kicks in, or you're in your yard, somebody attacks you. That is what the Home Invasion Act is intended to prevent, as opposed to all your doors are secured and somebody breaking and you use some guillotine to cut off there. And I think that is something different to some extent. So we would have to, I don't know if they looked at that, the offenses against the, no, the that act that the caller spoke about, as well as the home, before drafting the Home Invasion Act. And you see, this is just a few of the questions that has been raised in relation to the Home Invasion. And there are many others, other questions that person may have.
All right, we have to close, but just something came to me also. You, with your defense, can determine what you're targeting in the moment. Your trap could have unintended victims, right, not just illegal trespassers.
And there's one more thing before we go. With this Home Invasion Act, it speaks, there's an area that speaks about courts. The court will determine. It does not mean that when you defend somebody in your home, that it is all cut and dry and there are no other actions coming. You can be charged still for defending yourself in your property if the DPP said, saying, well, no, reasonable force was not used, or it doesn't qualify as a home invasion, and you now have to go before the court and prove to the court, well, you might not have anything to prove, but the court would have to determine whether your actions were justifiable or not. So in that case, well, you defended yourself, and that is the end of that. Trinidad and Tobago, be wise.
All right, with that said, we're over time, so like to have to end things there. Thank you, Inspector Kana, once again for joining us. Folks, this is talking about the content capital. Have a good day, stay safe, watch your surroundings, install your cameras as much as possible, especially if you can't afford cameras, you should be able to afford a light or two, right? Lights are cheaper than guns, just saying, so you could start off there. Also, don't neglect, as Inspector Calendar said, reinforce your doors. You know, if you have a front gate in front of your door and then a gate in front of your patio and then a gate in front of that, all of that helps, because you don't want any ways to prevent someone from threatening you with a gun, having multiple layers of entry to give you time to hopefully call the police, call for help, as opposed to you having to directly confront them yourself, right? I'm still of two minds of that, because you could always lose the gunfight. With that said, we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
This is test question. This is 10 question.